All right. Great. I kind of got two cover slides. So this was, Big Sky Sustainable Water Solutions Forum. Topic is ecological health of river systems, and I'm here to provide kind of an overview of the Big Sky community and the river systems that are in the Big Sky area. So I've got a couple of slides from last time to get you guys oriented again, kind of what we're calling the Big Sky area in the zone of influence, the Gallatin River Watershed here in pink and the Madison River Watershed in blue, and then the Big Sky Resort Tax boundary there in red being our kind of focus area. To look at just some demographics real quick first before we get into the water resources issues. Growth, obviously a giant driver of what's going on up here. Here's some population data looking at kind of what was present in 2000 and 2010 and then extrapolating into the future. And you're kind of looking at two different graphs there, two different lines, kind of a low-end prediction that, by 2040 we'll be up to, 4,500 as a population or up to 14,000. So a lot of growth, but a lot of, it's probably the reality of that somewhere in between the two. For housing and build out, there's currently, 3,500 units, 4,000 in 2020 with full build out looking at 7,400 units. A peak residential population of 16,000 people is predicted at full build out. Currently, there's 1,500 hotel rooms, and that can take an estimated 4,400 people for visitors. In terms of visits in the tourist economy, up to 15,000 people can be visiting and recreating this area kind of on a peak day. Winter has been historically the busy season, which you see in the middle of this graph, December through March, peaking in March, then a lull in the spring, and then an uptick in the summer, and that's been increasing with a significant amount of tourism, based on fisheries and outdoor recreation, hiking and biking and stuff like that. So look more closely at the water resources. We showed you guys this map last time as well. These are kind of the sub-watersheds within the area, moving from east to west along the Gallatin kind of Yellowstone divide there. You have a bunch of tributaries on National Forest land, Porcupine Creek, Portal Creek, Moose Creek. You got tributaries that drain into the main stem of the Gallatin River kind of from along Beaver Creek and Deer Creek, kind of the core of the Big Sky area with the West Fork and the South Fork, West Fork watershed there in orange and yellow. And then as you jump over into the Madison divide, Jack Creek and those other watersheds draining into the Madison. So some of the areas where a lot of development is occurring along the Gallatin River Mainstem. The project area focuses from the Red Cliff Campground down to Karst. Beaver Creek area being a major area in there. The West Fork Gallatin River watershed, which we're in right now, includes the major tributaries, the South Fork, West Fork, Middle Fork, West Fork, North Fork, West Fork, as well as then we have Jack Creek on the other side. So kind of take a tour of these watersheds. This is the Mainstem Gallatin River here, moving kind of downstream. You can see kind of some photos of the existing conditions. The river's flowing north through the project area. The West Fork and South Fork watersheds are coming in from the west. Beaver Creek, some major drainage in there, as well as Porcupine Creek. Move through the Gallatin Wildlife Management area there, downstream of Porcupine Creek and Beaver Creek. You can see a picture of the Jack Smith Bridge there as you approach the lower end of the project area, as well as Betis Alley. So the South Fork, West Fork, Gallatin River is one of the major sub-watersheds in the West Fork watershed here. South Fork is a real high energy stream system. You can see those photos, a mountain stream, high bed load transport capacity. You can move a lot of sediment every year. Goes through a canyon section. Many of you are familiar with Ouzel Falls, downstream of which it's still confined, and there's some naturally erosive geologies in this area. So kind of a really a dynamic river. You see the picture on the lower right-hand side there, low flow conditions. You start to see some algae growth in the South Fork of the West Fork at kind of the summer low flow conditions. Too many. And then to look at the major tributaries that flow into the South Fork, West Fork. So all the major tribs come in from the south. You have Muddy Creek, then Third Yellow Mule, Second Yellow Mule, and First Yellow Mule. And you can see especially the Muddy Creek and the Third Yellow Mule really kind of share characteristics with that Upper South Fork watershed. A lot of scree, very little soil, very mobile streams, high transport capacity. Moving over into kind of the upper West Fork Gallatin River watershed, you have two main tributaries, the Middle Fork West Fork and the North Fork West Fork, with the creative naming scheme here. And Beehive Creek as well. So Beehive is a trib of the Middle Fork. Many of you have probably done that hike up in there. It's kind of a mix of a mountain stream and a meadow stream up there. You have some drainage coming off, the Big Sky ski area, that small tributary. You see the pictures on the right. It's kind of locally referred to as Moose Tracks Creek since it drains a ski run named that. Another small tributary called Stony Creek coming in there from the south. And then the North Fork is that pink watershed, and you can see that mostly drains national forest land. The picture is kind of the top one on the right over there, a real steep, large substrate mountain channel. The Middle Fork proper, there's a dam called Lake Levinsky at the upper end there at Big Sky. You can see a picture of that. So that's kind of impacting sediment transport through the system since it's a sediment trap. Downstream of that, you have kind of mountains channel conditions, and then it flows into a meadow area before joining the North Fork to form the West Fork proper. So the West Fork Gallatin River, the named reach is really relatively short. It extends from the confluence of those two down to the confluence with the Mainstem. And locally we refer to this in two sections, the upper and the lower, with the upper being the area through the golf course and the lower being kind of downstream of the South Fork, West Fork confluence. So it picks up, essentially half the watershed area when the South Fork comes in. You can see just a few pictures kind of across the top there showing the West Fork, some spring runoff pictures, high velocity mountain channel. Historically, on the golf course there's been a couple impoundments that were built on it, and you can see pictures of those ponds now. The stream flows through them. Moving through the golf course and past Little Coyote Pond, the stream then flows along the wastewater treatment plant, which you see in that top right photo. And then as you progress downstream, that orange watershed kind of coming in is where the South Fork comes in, and you can see that lower picture, at the algae growth that we saw in the South Fork, West Fork as well, real green, kind of nutrient-enriched conditions at low flow during the summer in that reach. To focus in a little bit more on the West Fork, because there's currently some restoration and ecological health work going on here. The lower slide, the upper slide is a 1971 aerial. The lower slide is kind of current conditions. Those yellow polygons show areas where riparian vegetation planting projects are planned for the golf course to help reduce nutrient input to the river. That's being led by the Gallatin River Task Force. And then you can see the two ponds that are on here. Historically, the channel was a meandering channel through those areas, and there's currently a plan by the Big Sky Homeowners Association to take those ponds off the channel so the stream will flow past the ponds, and the ponds will just be their own entities. Last but not least is the Jack Creek watershed here. I didn't have a river picture of that one, but I threw in a picture of the Moonlight Basin headwaters. Keep everyone focused on the winter here in the heat of summer. This is a major drainage to the Madison, obviously, but only a part of it's in the project boundary area there with that red box there, but it flows out, into that bench country to the east of Ennis there. Just a couple quick slides on here's an overview of the TMDL process. Karen's giving me 1 minute. I saved these for last, so you don't have to read them. The total maximum daily load is a TMDL. It's the maximum amount of a pollutant a water body can receive and still meet water quality standards. That was the document was done in 2010 in this watershed. Identified 3 impaired stream segments, which we talked about more later. And in 2012, the watershed restoration plan was done for the Upper Gallatin anyway, which is the West Fork watershed. This provides a blueprint for improving water quality and habitat conditions. Briefly tap on the permitting requirements for doing stream type projects and ecological improvement projects. You have any work that Sun and Streams requires a 310 permit, a 318 permit, the 404 permit, potentially the Gallatin County floodplain permit, as well as if you have a greater than an acre of disturbance, a stormwater discharge general permit. So with that, I think my time is up, and you can enjoy Ouzel Falls at high flow for a minute.
Thanks, Jeff.